Welcome to our short Webinette on quote to cash. Let's get started.
I'm actually going to start out here in an opportunity. This is one I created this morning. So let's say that we're selling to a company here called Power System Constructors, and they have an opportunity to do some electrical work and some other technology type work for a health clinic. So if I look at this opportunity, if you're someone who's familiar with the Salesforce platform today, this should look very familiar if you're a CRM user. We start out here, we identify the specifics of the opportunity. As we come over here on the right side, we start to see a lot of things that tie back to Rootstock. So for example, now here's a quote. In this particular case, this is a quote that was generated out of CRM. That quote I actually processed through as a sales order, which is in Rootstock. I've also got some other sales orders out here in Rootstock as well. And we're going to look at these in just a minute to show you how that works. And all that works is actually, or what makes that work is this connection up here, where I can essentially create a Rootstock quote or order straight from within the opportunity. As I go on down here, as I move those orders through the process, the order to cash process, I see down here that I've got invoices that I've generated to that particular customer related to this opportunity. In this particular case, a lot of times you may be selling to a customer that's a configured item. So Salesforce has a CPQ process. So as part of that Salesforce quote, you might configure a product that has a bill of material or a list of items that need to go with it, a list of steps that you need to go through to build it. We can take that information and bring that directly into a sales order within Rootstock. So we're going to look at some examples of those here as we roll forward. So the first thing I thought I would do is actually go through and let's look at this order right here. I'm just going to open this in a new window. So we're going to step through the process and keep our windows as we go across here. But this is actually a sales order that was created to fulfill that particular quote that was on that opportunity. Now this is a stock item. So I want to make sure that I'm very clear as we go through this what these different items are. This is a stock item in this case. So this is something that we're just going to pull out of inventory. This is a stock unit that we keep in stock all the time, and we're just going to ship it out the door and invoice for it. As you see here, it's listed as a stock item. It's a UPS system. We sell that for $900. But as we move now into the order phase, the order fulfillment phase from the selling phase within that opportunity, I can do some other things in here. Like for example, if I take that order, I can come in here and I can see what I have in stock at any given point in time. If I had it in multiple locations, I'd see multiple line item entries here. I could come in here, I could either do the pricing within that opportunity within Salesforce CRM and then just bring that straight through into the Rootstock sales order, or I could price it from the Rootstock side as well. You have a choice there as to how you do that. But I can always see how my price was determined whenever I get a price for a particular item. I also have the ability to come over here as well and some additional information that's behind the scenes. Sometimes a customer may call you and say, I want to buy this unit. You might not have it in stock. So the next thing you want to figure out is, well, when can I fulfill that order? That's certainly what the customer wants to know. So we have the ability to come in here and do an available to promise as well. So if I come in here, I'm going to just bring up a grid. It'll show you very quickly what I've got and when I'm going to have it, quite frankly. So if I don't have, you see right here, here's my available to promise line. If I take an order between now and the end of the month, it's like I've got 79 units I could fulfill orders with. As I go forward, I'm going to have more units. As I've got a forecast up here on the top, and you see these sales orders demands which consume that forecast. If I hover over those, I can always see what order is generating that demand for that particular item. So now as we transition from that opportunity into that sales order, we're starting to see some of the information we keep as we get into what we traditionally know as the back office fulfillment side of the process. So let's come back over here and let's close that out. Now I'm going to go through, as I go through and I ship that order out, because remember we said before that was a stock order. As we go through and ship that order out, I'll have shipping information over here. So this is my shipper. There's a packing list. We can generate a bill of lading out of that as well. We can go out and hit different shipping sites if we need to compute shipping charges dynamically and bring those back in. But where I want to head right now is over to the invoice. So as I come over here, we'll drill down into that particular invoice for that order that was sold. And what we'll see there, I'll just generate a copy of the invoice. But you can have unique invoice formats for your customers. So you can make a unique invoice format for your company. We have a lot of customers who have very specific ways they want their documents to look. I'm going to show you a very basic document here in our demonstration system, but we actually have a tool called Root Forms. And what that allows you to do is go through, use Microsoft Word as an editor, design the layout of these forms, design what pieces and what elements of information you want to pull in here, how you want that to look, and then we load that into the system, and it uses and it maps all that data in here as it generates those invoices. So I could have different invoice formats for each customer, different classes of customers, however you might choose to do that. But you know, as we move through that process, though, you've always got access to this information. So as I move through, I can always go to this invoice. I can see who that was sold to. I can see what the sales order was that it was sold on. In this particular case, this was something that was put together, so there was a project associated with it. I can see all these other categories of information over here as well. So I want to back up a step, though, and show you a different type of order before we go further here. And the other one I wanted to show you here was this was 129. So if I go in here and I'll look at 129, and I'm going to open that again in a new window here. This is a different type of sales order, because this is a make to order or configure to order type item. So this might be something that we configured using Salesforce CPQ. We also have a CPQ engine within Rootstock. We don't care which one you use. They both are going to do the same thing, and I'll show you in a second what they do and how we use it. But the information, whether it comes out of Salesforce CPQ or out of our own CPQ tool, is going to end up at the same place, which is basically sitting in this order line right here for a configured item. So in this particular case, I configured this video server, which has a set of components that go into it. And then it's got some other pieces here, which are video cameras and a pole, which are just stock items. So I'm going to build this server. I'm going to grab these two items out of stock, pack it with it, and I'm going to ship that out the door to the customer. But on this configured item, though, over here, if I drill in, you'll notice that if I come over here to the Components tab, I've got a bill of materials sitting behind this. And I want to come in here and I want to edit this to make it a little bit more meaningful. But I've got a bill of materials and I've got a routing that sit behind that particular item. So if I come down here, here are all the hardware components that are required to build that unit. And I've also got some software that I'll load on that unit as well. So here's some facial recognition software that gets loaded on that unit. So that's a non-tangible touch with your hand type of product that gets loaded as part of this bill of materials. So there's a bill of materials associated with that. That could either come through that Salesforce CPQ or Rootstock CPQ process. And as I come back, oops, close that a little bit too quickly there. I come back over here. I can also define what the steps are, what the costs and the runtimes are to actually build that product. So now I can go through, I can build that. The system creates a project for me that has, in this particular case, you don't have to do it this way, but this project lines up with the sales order number. So when I go and I look at that project, it matches with a sales order number, the work order number, the work orders associated with it to construct that unit are also tied to that sales order and that project. So everything as we go from the opportunity to the quote, to the sales order, to the project, to the work order, everything is connected together so that we can track it. So let's go over a minute and let's talk about the accounts receivable side. So let's come over, once we built these things, we ship these things out the door. This is what someone on the accounts receivable side might see over here. So if they come in, this is a desktop or what we would call a lightning app that is purpose-built for a particular function within an organization. In this case being accounts receivable. What we have here is we have a dashboard that has a lot of accounts receivable specific info in it here. Over here on the side, we have some reports that we have linked in and other utilities. And then across the top over here, we have different functions that a user might be able to do or might need to do as part of an accounts receivable function. Everything in here is editable. We call this the last mile tailoring of the solution. And this is what Tom had spoken about that's very difficult to do with a lot of older ERP systems. But get this to look like exactly what someone wants it to, what they need to see. So if I came in here and I said edit page, I can bring this page up in an editor if I have security access to do that. This would not be something you would have everybody in the organization do. But if you notice, if I click here, this is actually a dashboard. This is just a Salesforce platform dashboard. I could edit this dashboard. I could move these components around. If you come over here and click on these blocks, you notice that I can click on any one of these items and it's just a hyperlink to something. So if I wanted to, I could come in here and I could add something new if I needed to add a new item in here. So you could put more hyperlinks in there, take some of those links out. The other thing you can do in here as well is if I go back, as a user, you can come in on the top up here, you could use this pencil and you can modify these links, or you can rearrange these links, do whatever you want to with them. So you have the ability to tailor this however you want it to look, so that each user, you might say, I don't want all my users to see all this AR information. That's fine. I might only want them to see 3 or 4 different pieces of information up here in one of these blocks, or I might only want them to be able to do 2 or 3 things up here on the top. That's fine. You can build a lightning page that is specific to those functions they need to do. And guess what? When the system is upgraded, those upgrades those customizations you make get carried forward and they don't get overwritten. What I wanted to show you here is an example, and I'm just going to use one of the items here in the dashboard. But if I came in here and I looked at, I'm going to look at a different customer here, Bellevue Hospital. They owe me a lot of money, and I want to use this to illustrate what we were talking about before about trying to get everything into one platform and into one database and why that's important. So if I came in here and I said, Bellevue owes us a lot of money, let's start looking around, see what we can find. We're going to drill down into Bellevue. And first thing we'll do is we can see here, their credit limit's 30 million, their unbilled limit's 20 before we throw up a flag and say you need to bill these guys and catch up. Currently they owe us $16 million. I think we have a little work to do. But let's go down here and let's do an account inquiry. Because if I come down here, I might say, I want to take this back to last year. And let's look at all the sales orders we had out there. So I can see sales orders. As I come across here, I can see shippers that I've shipped to them. I can see invoices I've generated for them. I can see prepayments. I can see any, these are actual invoices, are credit memos that have been out or gone out to them. Anytime they've paid me, it looks like they haven't paid me in a while, but let's go back here. Let's go back to last year and let's go through today. Yeah, it looks like they haven't paid me in a while. So these folks need to pay us some money. Maybe that's why they owe us so much money. But if I roll down through this list of sales orders here, for example, I look through here and I say, well, if I come back to, if I look at this, I might see a sales order in here. Here's one, $250,000. Let's drill into that one, 150814. We'll drill back into that. And what that'll show me, there's the actual sales order. So I can see the products that were sold. I can see when this order was taken, 6/26 of last year. I can even, if I want to, go so far as to see what opportunity that was sold on. So that takes me all the way back to CRM. So not only can I go forward through the system, quote to sales order, to invoice, to collection, now I can turn around to the collection end and I can go backwards all the way back to the opportunity. If you have that data sitting in multiple databases, CRM on one platform, sales and accounts receivable sometimes on another, Usually you have to take that information and bring it out to a data warehouse to do that, but you don't need to do that here. It's all sitting in one place. It's just a matter of building dashboards or reports or using the ones we give you to be able to access that information. I would also have the ability here as well, if I wanted to see that invoice, I could come over here to order fulfillment. And it looks like I haven't invoiced that yet. So that's a problem. So maybe I need to go back and invoice that particular order. They would owe me even more money. But if I had invoiced them, you would see that invoice number here for each one of these line items individually or for that whole group together. So the last thing I wanted to do to kind of wind it up here is run over and spend a minute and talk about the concept of the 360-degree view of the customer. So you see me start with an opportunity, run sales orders attached to that opportunity all the way through. But let's say that we need to go through and we need to look at information on that customer holistically. So I'm a sales rep. I'm going out to meet with that customer. I'm sitting in the parking lot. I'd like to kind of know what my situation is, not only for that one opportunity, but across all the business we're doing with that particular customer. It's what we call the 360-degree view of the customer. But if I come in here, I'm going to go in and I'm going to look at, let's go look at Bellevue again, because I got a lot of data for them. And there they are right there. Call that up. And so what this will do is this will come in, this will show me all my sales going back to last year. And once again, just like I showed you a minute ago with that other Lightning app, we can come in here and edit this page. We can make it look like whatever we need to. We built this page ourselves in the pre-sales team. But this is what we call our 360-degree view of the customer. I can come up here, hover over these links. I can see all their orders. I can see all their invoices. This is some of that same information that we looked at just a minute ago. I can see their address information, any RMAs we've done. As I roll, if I come over here to this related list on the back side, I can see all that information in a little bit more detail. I can come over here, I can see what they have in opportunities, multiple opportunities, not just the one we looked at before. I can see any cases we've got. Looks like we got 7 open cases with that particular customer. As you roll down through here, I can see prepayments. I can see any warranties that we've got on products, RMAs to return material. As we go through that whole process of servicing and caring for that customer, we can see all that information here. Because this is a Lightning app, this is immediately available to look at on a phone or maybe an iPad as I sit in that parking lot before I go into that meeting. And that's really the essence of what Tom was talking about today. Let's get all that information in one spot. Let's get all the data into one place so that we can write reports and gather things very easily to be able to sum things up.
Visit rootstock.com/demo to request a personal demo. Thank you for your time.